It's a busy week in the transfer portal. I'm Thomas Rankar, film analyst for Blue White Illustrated, also the host here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, trying to pull double duty of doing your film and doing your videos and doing written content, and there's all kinds of stuff. So yesterday I went into my bunker, I went into my film bunker, and I just absorbed as much information as I possibly could about the guys that we had picks in for, the guys that had committed, some uncommitted guys, and some guys that committed a while ago that I wanted to rewatch. I told my wife yesterday, it was like, I feel like my brain overate. You know when you go to a buffet or go to a party or you just make something delicious at home and like you have the extra helping and then you just can't help yourself and you're like, oh, 20 minutes later you sit down and you're like, I feel a little sick. I ate too much food. That was my brain yesterday of just absorbing all of that football content. But your brain, this is the great thing. Your brain can't throw up. Like it's stuck in there. Now, maybe some of it goes into the trash accidentally because short-term memory and whatnot. But I've got a bunch of players I want to talk to you about here on this particular video. We're doing the last 3 commitments to Penn State football out of the transfer portal. Big dudes up front is the theme of this one, and then we'll end with a third guy. And as always, like these are not put in any specific order other than the order in which I think you're interested in them. And we're starting with number 1 here. I just realized like we should start with number 1 and go to number 3. It makes way more sense to do it that way.
Number 1.
So let's start with the latest commitment, at least in the timeline in which I'm in, where this guy committed in the middle of the night on Friday into Saturday, and that is Brock Riker. I got up early this morning, I was watching some film of Brock Riker, started working on him yesterday, and then fell asleep. And then he committed, of course, right? Because that always happens. So he is from Texas State. 6'4", 290, super athletic center. A lot of teams interested in Brock Riker in the transfer portal, and he picks Penn State over, and you can go look at the list of teams. It's impressive. Alabama, USC, Utah, a bunch of different schools. What he is he is an impressive redshirt freshman who at Texas State operated a no-huddle offense with very few mistakes. Experience, he had almost 900 snaps last year. Great communication, athleticism, hip mobility, awareness. So basically, he's really good at blocking. He knows technically how to block really well. So like the fundamentals, taking small steps, being in control and in balance at all times. He's 290, but he moves and looks like he's 250. So as a redshirt freshman, looks like there's plenty of room to grow. And I'm encouraged by the way he uses his body to get in the way of blockers and to the way. It's a weird offense. Like the part of the problem is like it's a weird offense where he's not doing a lot of solo blocking. They run an inside zone spread offense where, there's nobody, there's very rarely a tight end, and they spread the ball out and try to run. So basically what he does is he pinballs between the defensive tackles helping and then gets to the second level. They also run a lot of RPOs, so he's kind of hanging out at the line of scrimmage instead of running out and getting those guys. But when he does get out in space and run, it is very impressive. Also, really good blocker from a pass protection standpoint. His technique is pretty good. His awareness at both run and pass blocking is great. He knows how to slide protect. He can set those protections, with the quarterback very well. And he does a good job of keeping his eyes up and looking for work, as they say on the offensive line. So he's blocking one way. He's got his hands, he's seeing with his hands this way, and he's looking the other way, trying to make sure that there isn't a stunt or a slant or something else coming from the backside where he's getting fooled. Very hard to fool him. So right there, for Penn State fans, that'd be great, right? Like they've had issues with that at center for quite some time. So the fundamentals, the floor is all very high with Brock Riker. And as always, like these are two-sided evaluations. I want to give you the honest picture and not just, hey, he's great, it's going to be amazing, blah, blah, blah. There are some things he has to work on. It was a very limited offense because you can do 3 things. You can do a lot, you can do it fast, and you can do it well. And, it's one of those iron triangles where you got to pick. So they liked to go fast and do it very well based on the way at least Riker operated. So they didn't do a lot of things in their offense, mostly inside zone and some counter plays. So he's going to have to learn how to do a bunch of stuff. He fits Penn State's outside zone system really well from an athletic and a trait standpoint, but he's never run it. And there's a lot of things in this offense that protected him that I kind of described of. He's mostly help blocking. He doesn't have a ton of one-on-one reps, either in the run or the passing game. And when he does, against big nose tackles, he tended to struggle. and he did not make really any movement whatsoever in the run game when he was helping. Like, he kind of bounces off of defensive tackles for the most part. But because he's technically good and he is strong for his size, every once in a while he get under the armpit of a defensive tackle and he ride him out of a play. And he's strong enough that he can take momentum and he could take it away from the play. So there's a lot of things he can do. But very clearly, his number one goal this upcoming year in the offseason, starting today, is to live in the weight room and then eat only protein shakes and lean chicken for the next 4 to 5 months. Basically, live in the squat rack because he is lean 290. However, like, it's interesting, like, not having all of the testing metrics and information about arm length and things like that. He does struggle against long-armed defensive tackles. You don't need to have elite reach at center, but it always helps. So I don't know the upper end of his growth potential. That is kind of the wild card here. Can he hold 315 pounds, 305, 310, 320? If he is actually 6'4", and I think it's kind of in question. I don't think he's small, but I don't think he's huge. Does that make sense? So where he lands on that spectrum is going to determine kind of the upper echelon of where he's going to land as a football player, because it is literally just add strength and then profit with him. So that's kind of where he fits. And then as far as his projection to the field, I don't know if he's going to be the starter this year. I think there's a probability that he is, because they don't have another natural center on the roster. I think this means they think Cooper Cousins is a guard. They need him at guard. Trevor Burr is coming over from Iowa State, who played guard there. So those are some of the interior players you can kind of pencil in as starters. And then it's Dom Ruley and Brock Riker, who, by the way, comes in with Rocco Becht as like the most... Like, they got some strong masculine names coming in the transfer portal to Penn State. Brock Riker. Sounds like a prison guard, almost. You know? Maybe it's just because Rikers. I don't know. So anyway, either he or Dom Ruley could start for Penn State, because I kind of discredited Dom Ruley because he was a walk-on, but he looked really good in the bowl game. 1 game sample size, so you don't want to overcredit that, but I also don't want to leave him out completely. However, long-term, Brock Riker is the starting center at Penn State. Whether it's this year, midway through this year, next year, that's what's going to happen. So that's our first player. Now, let's get to this. I'm going to remind you, subscribe to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Give us a like, a subscribe here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. And let's get to number 2.
Number 2.
Siale Taupaki, another defensive tackle from UCLA. Basically, they took the starting unit from UCLA and brought it over here to State College with Akaka Malloy. Now, he wasn't technically the starter, but he played starting level reps for UCLA with Keanu Williams. He's 6'4". He's anywhere from 315 to 335 pounds based on where you might look. UCLA had him listed at 315. But what he is a run stuffer. Point of attack strength, run gap defense, gap and a half defense. He is another plugger in the middle of the defense. And that is going to be what the Penn State defensive tackles do this year. All of the defensive tackles they've added through the portal are these type of players. Now, they've been interested in guys like Zion Chapman or Naquan Crowder that were 3 techniques with pass rushing ability. The kid that signed at Indiana also like that. But the ones they've gotten have been mammoth defensive tackles, whether they're that big or they play that big. And this is the area where I think it's very interesting of what are you expecting from a player? Because if Keanu Williams and Taupaki were what I'm about to describe, they'd already be in the NFL. So your job as a defensive tackle is to be in a certain gap, either the A, the B, the C, but typically the A or the B gap, in between the guard and center or in between the guard and the tackle. Now, in the type of defenses we're explaining, they're not like Penn State used to have, where it's like, okay, you're in the A gap, but get upfield. You're trying to get a tackle for loss. You're attacking instead of holding the line of scrimmage and creating a disruption of being a dude in that gap and creating a wall, right? It's what they tried to do with Jim Knowles, and it didn't really work. If Jim Knowles had these guys, it would have worked a lot better. The difference is, like, you're in your gap and you're using your lineman to compress the gap next to you. So you're kind of creating this big old mess, right? You are allowed, though, at a certain point to go and tackle the running back or the quarterback, whoever it might be. So when you're in your gap and maybe the A gap opens up and that's where the running back goes, if you can shed your blocker and then go make the tackle, that's the most valuable thing you can do because you just stopped the run at the point of attack and got the tackle for either loss, no gain, or a short yardage gain. A lot of the guys they've brought in don't actually do that last part, including Taupaki. So how that goes is going to determine, where the tackle happens and if they are, going to develop on who they are, right, as players. The other thing is this will be Taupaki's 8th year in college football. He came in the class of 2019. Let that sink in. 2019. By the way, Keanu Williams, this is his 6th year. So very literally, by size and age, they have an NFL defensive tackle room. That's pretty wild. So we talked about block disengaging as one of the things where he can improve. The other thing is he is athletic for his size. I think there's a quickness there, like with Keanu Williams, but it's you're revving the engine pretty hard to get from one gap to the other. And when you do that and you're running as hard as you can, it's easier to put somebody on skates, especially a big dude who then starts tippy-toeing around the field, right? So you want to have your weight ready to change directions and being in that football position. These guys are pretty big, and it's harder for them to do that. So there's times that they do get washed out. And then from a pass rushing perspective, there's more here. And if Penn State is going to get pressure from an interior player, it's either going to be Armstrong Nadim or obviously Type Landing, some of the young guys on the roster. But from the portal players, it would be Taupaki. There's some plays, especially against Indiana, where he had really strong bull rushes, where he's pushing the guard into the pocket and into the quarterback's feet, not making sacks, not making hits, but a guy that when he's running the hoop, on a stunt or something like that, he actually looks athletic. Now, the execution and the end result are not anywhere near like pass rush plus, but if there's going to be a guy that does it, I honestly think it'd be Taupaki from these big nose tackle types that we've talked about so far. So what you get out of him there is going to be interesting. Is that a bonus or is that not much at all? We'll find out. But I would say he is in line to be one of the starters here at Penn State in what is a very important aspect of rebuilding this defensive line in a new image. And so they're bringing in a lot of these guys. Okay, so that's for the interior linemen. Now let's talk about our final player.
Have you heard of Wave Fruit Farm? It's this great farm market bakery and cafe. You can shop with them either at their farm in Port Matilda or downtown State College.
No way.
Yes, Wave Fruit Farm. They have all sorts of seasonal fruits and veggies.
Way cool.
No, Wave Fruit Farm. But anyway, you should visit their bakery and cafe. They serve amazing food all day.
Way.
Fruit Farm.
By the way, I go to Wave Fruit Farm Saturday mornings to get my coffee and eggs. So you should definitely check them out if you're in town. Just say hi. I don't think you're probably not getting there as early as I am. Considering I, for some reason on Saturdays, wake up at 5 to watch film. What in the world? Especially in January. Well, part of it is because we're going through these pretty quick. And our last one, let's get to number 1.
Number 1.
Okay, so I've been butchering names up here, right? I apologize to everyone in advance. Normally they're Polynesian or Scandinavian, where there's a bunch of vowels and consonants in areas I'm not familiar with and they make me scared. This one is shorter, but IBN, this looks more like a ticker symbol than a name. Iben sounds like Ivan, so we're going with Ivan McDaniels, the defensive back from Syracuse. And by the way, I'm not making fun. I'm just lost. I'm sorry. Interesting player, 6'3", 205, and he's the first one that we've scouted where I'm really I don't know where he fits. What he did last year, and this is the thing, is he's unbelievably talented from a potential standpoint, from an ability standpoint. He is the closest thing to Dejon Lane that they've brought in to replace losing Dejon Lane. Height, weight, speed, all borderline elite, position versatile, NFL future body, straight line speed, all these great things. But the problem is the football side of it does obscure that a little bit and makes me question some of those things. So let's talk about change of direction skills. Looks like he's got really great hips and he can turn and run with anybody. But from a football perspective, 6'3", 205, they thought, let's play him everywhere. Let's play him at nickel. Primarily, he was their diamond nickel defensive back. And then they played him at free safety at times, but kind of in that Zakee Wheatley free safety role, right? So like he was closer to the line of scrimmage a lot. And then they straight up played him at will linebacker in super obvious passing situations. So he played near the box, played everywhere. And I don't feel like he got comfortable at any point. And what that did is it made his change of direction skill look like he's a tall, stiff defensive back that can't turn and run. In man-covered situations, felt like he was constantly a step behind because he's highly reactive. So head fakes, shoulder shimmies, he's biting on the first move, and then that receiver goes the other way, and suddenly he's a step and a half behind. He doesn't play with a ton of anticipation. In zones, reactive to play action, and then reactive to routes and kind of taking the cheese, right? So a route goes one way outside of his zone, so he'll run after that, and then pretty quickly afterwards, there's another route that comes in behind, and he's 2 or 3 steps the wrong way, so open zone, completion, catch and run. He did not have a good start to the year, so in the non-conference season, he saw roughly half of his defensive snaps, and then did not see those as he looked like he was competing for a positional role, kind of a role player role in the defense, and that he got bumped down to the dime defender, in certain third down packages and as a third rotator in late in games. So he did not see a ton of experience last year, especially late in the year, but he did have some flashes. And so to me, the question is, where does he actually fit for Penn State, who's full up on starters? Both safety positions are full. All 3 corner positions are coming back from last year with their position coach. So he's not a starter this year. So a couple things that I think. First off, when you have a big, athletic, height, weight, speed guy, number one thing I think is okay, special teams. I don't know where you fit. You fit as a gunner, and you fit as a bullet on special teams where you can run down the field and make some plays. Now, outside of that, he looks more like a safety in Penn State's new defense than he does a corner. And so he primarily played corner for Syracuse. But I would rather have a free safety that has cover corner skills than have a corner that maybe has more safety skills than they do corner skills. Now, ideally, I'd love him to be Derwin James and play nickel slot. It'd be what Minka Fitzpatrick was for Alabama back in the day. But those almost never come through. And every single time I see him, they turn into safety. So I'm trying to learn my lesson and not just, shoot for the sky. Ideally, he would be the matchup positional guy you put everywhere. But realistically, I think he's a free safety or field safety. And then it's just about putting him in a position and letting him learn the game of football. And I think from there, Penn State has a talented player with upside. And it's one of the first players they brought in, at least from the pure transfer portal, not maybe from Iowa State, who is a guy that is here for, I don't want to say depth, like he's just a guy that's going to be filling out a roster spot or anything like that, but a stashing an elite talent for the future. Most of these guys that are coming in, they have a clearly defined role of where they fit and how they are going to play next year in a rotation or as the starter. I think Ivan McDaniels is more of a future play for them because they need, and again, let's look at the numbers. They need safety bodies on this roster. They've only got a handful. And so if you don't have those and you get a 6'3" defensive back, that's kind of where I'm going with him. So that's our breakdown of these 3 players. And again, I think I've scouted 20 this week, so can't get to all of them here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. So if you want to go to bluewhiteillustrated.com, this is going to come up in just a second, but I'll put it up again. Subscribe for 50% off. It is such a good deal. $50 for an entire year. I pay $80 some for YouTube TV a month, and we provide you free YouTube year round, and the site, if it's a bundle deal, it costs you $50 to get all of that. More content than you can consume, probably. But you should try and consume as much of it as possible here on the YouTube channel. Like the video, subscribe, all that great stuff. All right, I may be back on Sunday. We may be back on Monday. Depends on what happens in the portal and how much we get done. And if I decide that I'm going to look my family in the face and say hello for the first time in a bit. And I'm not trying to go, oh, woe is me. I'm just, might take some time to not be in front of a computer in the next couple of hours. Sinful, I know. But we'll be back. Without a doubt, we'll be back to talk more about Penn State football here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. That's why you got to subscribe and enable notifications so that you don't have to be waiting on my whims. It'll just let you know when we post more content.